So, my name is Moses. Some of the students call me TA Moses. That's fine because sometimes I go to their class to assist them in with their various lecture courses. So today, the main idea is that we are just going to talk about what we discussed already. Now, mind you, when we started studying cognitive psychology, two, I explained to you that we have paradigms in cognitive psychology, and then we spoke about perception as well. Now, this time around, I want to take my time and go back and take you through everything again. If you think you know you are okay, maybe probably you're a shark or something, and you don't need this, it's not compulsory. You can just visit the meeting. But it is for your own benefit to have a second knowledge. If you also think that you are new to this, don't worry. I believe by the time you would finish this session, probably there would be a progress. So I will need you to comment. Use the emojis and reactions for me to know how things are going. If you have any question to ask, just feel free. Let me know your questions, and I am here to assist you all. All right. So 13 people have joined. I think we are getting to 15. So let them know that we can reach the 98 numbers that we did the other time, so the rest can benefit from it. So let's look at cognitive psychology, and then this time around we are looking at the paradigms in cognitive psychology. The reason why I want us to look at the paradigms again is that I realized that for the previous part of this particular course, you have covered it, and most of these details start from the paradigms in cognitive psychology. So I told you the other time that we have four main paradigms in cognitive psychology too, and that is what our interest is in as psychology students. So the first paradigm that I mentioned to you was the information processing paradigm, and then I told you that when you take the information processing paradigm, it just views or likens the human mind to that of a computer system. Now, before I proceed, if you can write any notes, write them, because today I'll be detailed, like there will be more details. So I advise that you write something down, you pay attention, don't just join this and listen to it, but write something down, get something down for your own revision sake. So this paradigm just views the human mind as that of computer. So according to this particular paradigm, and I explained what paradigm means, I took my time and I told that whenever you hear paradigm in cognitive psychology, think of it this way: approach, like a framework. So what are the frameworks? What are the approach to understanding cognitive psychology? And most people came with an approach that if we want to understand the human mind, how humans think and process things, then we need to understand these paradigms. So if you take, for instance, paradigm A, it has its own view on how the human cognition should be studied. If you take another paradigm, it also has a different view. So we as students come together to study all these different views so that we understand better what these things mean. So, as I was saying, back to the information processing paradigm, it always says that the human mind thinks through a sequential step, and this sequential step is where information flows. And you know that we have input, and I told you yesterday that input here means that your sensory memory or a stimuli comes into contact with your receptivity or the receptor cells. And then what happens? You process this information and then you store it in your brain. And then the output, what is the response or what is the behavior of this information that you've acquired? So I want us to take our time and look at certain key assumptions in the information processing paradigm. And after these assumptions, you should be able to understand this information processing paradigm better. Now, mind you that this paradigm that we are studying was influenced by Atkinson and Shiffrin. That was in the year 1968. and they played a major role, conducted research for us to understand this paradigm. Now let's look at these key assumptions to understand cognitive psychology. Now the first assumption under the information processing paradigm is that they view cognition as information processing. I will explain this to you. They view cognition as information processing. So which means that the human cognition is similar to computer processing system or computer processing information. So meaning that we have the input stage, there is the processing stage, there is the storage stage, and then there is the output stage. So first of all, data gets into a system. So data is imputed. Now when we have input as data, now this data goes through a process. After the data goes through the process, the data is stored, and at the end of it, it is used. So let me give you an example. Let's say, for instance, you are solving a math problem. What do? You first read the problem or the question. Now, when you read the question first, and then you will think through as to how to solve the question. So the first time you read the problem or you read the question, that is the input. And then you think through and say, how do I solve this problem? You are processing. And then right after, let's say you are processing, you get to know that, okay, maybe 1 + 1 is 2. So you store the answer in your mind that now 1 + 1 is 2, which means that there is a storage in the memory system. And then when you are done, finally, what do? Maybe you write your answer down, you shout your answer loud, or whatever you do with that particular result that you have, you do with it. So that is how the information processing paradigm views human cognition. And they are saying that, very simple, cognition is just similar to that of the computer processing information. That means that we have the stages of input. We have what? The processing stage, we have the storage stage, and then there is finally an output stage. And I've given you an example using the math problem, or you can even think of any other thing as well. I've given you the first assumption too, that they view cognition as information processing, and I've explained that to you with an example. So they view cognition as what? Information processing. So information processing paradigm. Before we proceed, share the link with your friends, let them join, because today's session is very, very far detailed than what we did yesterday, so that they will also benefit. Tell your friends, don't just benefit from only this. This is free for everybody, and it's something that I usually do. So let people enjoy, let them also benefit, and let them also learn as well. Tell your friends that, oh, there is a tutorial going on, let them join. Okay, now let's proceed. So the second assumption that I want to give to you is that they also see the human cognition as a stage-based processing. Now, meaning that information comes in stages. So mind you, we have the sensory input. That is when you come into contact with the stimuli. And then after there is a sensory input, you interpret or you give meaning to that input, and that is where perception takes place. And then after you are done with perceiving or forming a percept, and then your memory would then encode the information. It stores the information somewhere, and then maybe later on, if you need to get that information, you retrieve the information. So this is the second assumption in the information processing paradigm. And I am saying this in this way because most of the students just know the broader thing, because they just learn it, but they don't know some of these components that makes it what we say information processing. And once you get to know this, understanding it becomes very easy, and you are able to write as many pages as you want to write. Okay, in the process of these lessons, if you have any question, feel free to ask me. It is not something that we just laugh at you. Even if you laugh at you, it's nothing. Just make sure you are benefiting from this because it's free. So make sure you participate well. So back to what I was saying. Let me give you an example. Let's say you come to University of Ghana, and then you want to study Chinese, and then the Chinese people have been saying ni hao or hen hao, here what dia chema menzi, and then the rest. The first time you hear a word like ni hao, what happens? That is what you've gotten, like the sensory input, ni hao. and then you recognize the sound and say, this would be a Chinese language. It means that you've given meaning to what you've heard. So first of all, there was a sensory input. That was the ni hao, like you heard it. So that's the first stage. That is the input, the first stage. And then you then recognize the sound and give meaning. This is the Chinese language. So you being able to know that becomes the perception that you formed. So there is the input stage. Now you've formed a percept out of that. And then what happens? You're able to encode into the memory what is the meaning of ni hao or ni hao ma. What is the meaning? Now when you're able to know this, and then over time you realize that it has retained in your memory, like you've stored that ni hao sound in your memory. So whenever you hear it, ni hao means hello, ni hao ma means how are you. You would even tell your friends. So in conversations, you tell your friends, oh, when I went to the Chinese class, our lecturer said ni hao ma, meaning how are you. You are able to retrieve this information from your lecture class, and this is what we see information are in stage-based processing. So meaning that we have the input, there is that perception aspect, and then you also encode this information that you have, and then you store it. Over time you would retrieve this information. Hope you are making progress. Do you understand? You can react. Just give me a thumb up or something. You don't need to. You can just react with an emoji. Do you understand? Do you get me? Hi guys. Give me feedback. Do you understand? Do you hear my voice?
I say you understand.
Great. Now let me give you another assumption when it comes to understanding the information processing model. Now, this is one of the things that you need to know. According to the information processing model, there is what we call the mental representation. So take this from me. There is a mental representation in information processing model. They say that information are being represented in our minds in a more structured or organized way. So sometimes we use images, we use symbols, we use mental pictures, we use cognitive maps and all those things to represent information in our mind. Hope it makes sense. And I'm sure you've done this, and Prof has been telling you about this from Cognitive Psychology 1. So you know about this cognitive map and all those things, and how sometimes you use symbols and symbolisms and mnemonics and other things in learning as well. Now, one key assumption that I also want you to take is that we say the information processing model. Know that we have series of processing. So first of all, cognition occurs in sequence, in series. So one at a time rather than at all. So according to the information processing model, cognition occurs in series, like one at a time. So there is that input part, it moves on to the other stage, that is forming perception in that order. So information doesn't occur, like you don't get to know everything at a point, but then it takes place in series. So one at a time, and it moves on to the next stage in that way. Hope you are making progress. Now let me also give you another key assumption. I'm taking my time to give you all these things because I know this is the challenge as to understanding this thing in a broader way. Now another thing that you need to know is that since we are talking about storage and memory and all those things here, meaning that there would also be an issue of capacity. So what happens? So we are saying that we have limited capacity. That's one of the main assumptions. There is limited capacity. Now when I say there is limited capacity, the question is, what do I mean? This is what I mean. Let's say you are going to you are in the hall and you decide that, oh, this Saturday I need to prepare some rice or some cabbage stew. You decide to go to Madina Market to get some items or whatever. Now you make your grocery, or you get the list, a long list grocery items, and then when you get to Madina or to wherever you are going to buy it, like you struggle to remember the things that you wrote that you wanted to buy. Should I buy onion? Should I buy tomatoes? Or I should buy cabbage? What should I buy carrots? Like you just struggle to even remember what you wrote in the list. Why? Because what you wrote at that same time when you have it, and then the time that you left to buy the things, there is a duration there that took place, and that duration probably has led you to forgetting some of these things. So you ended up forgetting it. So meaning that there is a capacity which is limited in terms of your memory storage. So one of the assumptions in um, under the information processing model is that the cognition system has a limited capacity. So meaning that there are always constraints on how much information can be processed at a time. Let me give you another example. Let's say some people write on their CV that we can multitask, and you see CV and multitask, able to stand under pressure, and then you give them assignments in class, you give them group work, you give them take home exams, whatever, and they are not able to even do all these things. And when their friends call them, they'll say that, Charlie, I am tired of this University of Ghana thing. It's stressful. I can't do it. Why can't you do it? Because your brain is limited. It can't do everything. It has a limited capacity. So sometimes you even lose concentration because of this. So we have limited capacity in terms of talking about the information processing paradigm. And also know that there is, I'm giving another assumption though. So I think I've given you 4 or even 5 assumptions. And the other assumption I'm giving you under the information processing paradigm is that the cognitive abilities are, how should I even put it? They are like integrated, they are interrelated. Like they come together and perform a task. So they don't separate. So if I do this, like they come together this way and perform a task. They don't separate. They come together and perform a task. So for instance, let's say you are solving a mathematics problem, and then you realize that this question that they've given me, I need to pay attention to it. And then you pay attention to the question. They ask you, okay, 1 plus 1. Quickly say, oh, okay, it is 2. 1, there was an input. There was recalling to know it was 2. There was identification. There was perception. But all these things in your brains that help you to get these answers were working together. They were working together. So you're able to figure out the correct answer because everything in your mind worked together for you to get this answer correct. So I think I've given you about 5 or 6 or 4, if you can recall, maybe about 5 or so. I've given you all these assumptions, and all these assumptions I've given you, they fall under, note, they fall under what? The information processing paradigm. Now, those of you who joined earlier, I said I shared a link in the page. I'm sharing in the chat. I'm sharing the link again. We will have, I would upload some of these videos on YouTube for you to have access to it for your own benefit. Because I mean, I do these things for free for students, so you can just have access to this link. But then I haven't uploaded the videos yet. The ones that I had, I can't have access to those link again. So take note of this particular link, and maybe you can just subscribe for your own good. Because when I upload the videos, you can just go there and just watch them during your revision, during your final exams and everything. You are good to go. All right. Any questions so far? I'm taking 30 seconds to take your questions. Any questions so far? Any question? Okay, so since I didn't get any questions from you, I would probably assume that you guys are okay. But the feedback, is it okay? Is it going on well? Are we making progress? Is Sandra here? Stephanie is here. Hilda, Mona, Vanessa, Ella, are you making progress?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. Somebody has given me a thumb up. All right, let's proceed. Now, let's move on to the next paradigm that I spoke to you about. Now, the next paradigm that you need to know is what we call the connectionist paradigm. And then the other time I told you that the connectionist paradigm. So now, hold on. Everything that I said belongs to I said previously was under the information processing paradigm. You are moving on to a different paradigm, so don't get confused. And I've explained what paradigms and everything means to you. Now, the next paradigm that we are looking at is the connectionist paradigm. Now, they view the human cognition as a neural network. Mind you, when you don't hear the connectionist paradigm and you hear the parallel distributed processing paradigm, it is the same. So don't say, the last time Moses didn't mention the parallel distributed processing paradigm. I mentioned it to you. It is the same. So this sees the entire cognitive process as a form, or they emerge from networks of interconnected neurons working in parallel. So these interconnected neurons are working. They are working together. Now, let me help you with a very good breakdown. So let's say, for instance, we are going to learn how we think in the brain. So let's say like how to think in the brain or form perception. In this case, the brain has many small units. Like there are small units which are also known as the neurons. Yesterday I mentioned and Monday I mentioned it to you. So which are also known as what? Neurons. So these neurons are connected to each other. Mind you, these neurons or the units. So when I say units or neurons, I mean the same thing. They are connected to what? To each other. Then what happens? So once these neurons are connected to each other, they are being activated when there is an input from the environment. So example of an input means sound. When there is sound, when they see something, when they taste something. So when there is an activation by any of this input from the environment, then they start to work. So mind you, there is always positive and negative ways. I think those of you who took your biological psychology seriously might have an idea. So connections between these neurons or between these units can excite people, or they can also inhibit. When I say excite, it can activate more, or it can inhibit. It can also activate less connected neurons. So I'm repeating what I said. I'm saying that connections between these neurons or these units can either excite more connected neurons, or it can inhibit connected neurons. Now when I say inhibit, I mean activate less. Let me give you a good example. Let me think of something. Okay, I gave the example using the Chinese language, so let's go back to that. So let's say you hear a word. You hear a word in a Chinese language or a different language. Then your brain starts to process this sound, the meaning, the context at the same time. So simultaneous processing. So it will just help you to remember one word that you said. So for instance, if I say, I admire you a lot, before you realize you have the meaning to the word I admire you a lot, you understand what it means. Because the brain processed all these things simultaneously to form a meaning. So before you realize you have a meaning to this word. So it is saying that there are neurons or units in the brain that work together to bring understanding to you. And this helps you to remember words better, or to even form a percept out of anything. All right, I think I've breaking things down to certain level for you guys, right? Now, when you take the connectionist model or the paradigm, we have key people who propounded this, or who are pioneers in this paradigm. You can mention McClelland. Good. You can talk about James. You can talk about David E. I've forgotten the last name, but there is one David E. something. Is it Ramahat or something? And then these people developed this paradigm, or these people developed what we say the parallel distributed paradigm. And I think it was in the 1980s as well. Now, so let me try and make this simple for you. Let me put it in a brief form, maybe in a summary form. The connectionist model, or that approach, says that unlike the information processing paradigm that compares the human mind to the computer, or that says that information is processed one step at a go, the connectionist model says that the brain is as a result of a network or neurons that work together. So they process information at the same time. So this helps us to say, if I say, if you have a friend, I say, okay, Tina. If I mention Tina and you have any friend called Tina, you would automatically remember Tina. So so they are saying that it didn't go through a process of trying to recall whatever. These neurons help you to understand or even give meaning to who Tina is, and that is what this connectionist thing is saying. Connectionist approach, connection. So don't let this be a difficult thing for you guys. Good. Now we are moving on to the next one, and it's not difficult. Now the next one is the evolutionary approach, or the paradigm. With this, the other day I said a lot about it, and I just told you that it is very simple. This approach, or this evolutionary paradigm, just views cognitive psychology from the fact that these abilities that we have to think, cognition abilities, evolved specifically because of problems that our ancestors faced. So they believe that our ancestors faced certain challenges in life. They faced certain problems. So as they were thinking, we also evolved from them. So we are able to also understand and think as a result of certain problems that people who are dead, or ancestors, they faced, and we've been able to also form that understanding from their challenge. So that is the whole idea of this evolutionary paradigm. So they just believe that human beings, unlike any other animals who have minds as this biological system, they evolved from generation, and this generation is just subject to what I call natural selection, or what do you call natural selection. So this approach is very important. They talk about a lot of things that they have proofs that certain things evolve over time, and certain pressures that our ancestors face has helped us to think and make good decisions, because as they were facing the problems, as they were finding solutions, we evolved from them, and our cognitive abilities also evolved from them. So we were able to think and make judgment and decisions. And I think there is one topic which is much more interesting in this. I think they studied about cheating and everything. So maybe that's not, something related to this, but you can just read if you have time. And know that Richardson and Boyd, and I think 2B or something, 2002, 2000, they have a book on it. So maybe if you guys can just go and read about it, if you want, you can do that. So as I've told you, let me give you another example. So they are saying that, for instance, which example should I use? If you're able to remember people's faces, or if you're able to see people and know them, it is as a result of this like bond that our ancestors created, or they faced when they were alive. So because our ancestors were able to see people, they were able to identify people, they were able to relate with people in the environment, we are also able to know people and create bond with them, because we also evolved from our ancestors. That is the main idea in this. So some of the key contributors to this study has to do with John Tooby. And as I mentioned, we have either Cosmics or something. Yeah. So you can just also go and study about those people. Now, the last paradigm that I mentioned to you is the ecological paradigm. And whenever I hear the word ecological paradigm, I ask you, who did ecosystem in integrated science? I think that was the last but 2 or something topics treated. Ecosystem. Now, so this paradigm is very simple. They say that for you to understand human cognition, it must be in the real world context. We can't understand human cognition outside the world context. The world that we live in, we can't understand human cognition outside that. So when you say eco or ecosystem, what are you talking about? Our environment, the environment where we find ourselves in. So they are saying that, very simple, thinking, perception, understanding all these things are just shaped by our environment and the culture in which we live in. Simple. So they are shaped by environment and the culture in which we live in. And I told you yesterday that if you go to China and then you wear white dress in China, you are mourning. It means you are sad. But when you come to Ghana and you wear white, it is either you are crossing over to 31st night, you are crossing over to New Year, sorry, you are, or maybe you're giving birth, or you are going for an outdoor. So every culture differs. So how we think and perceive things are shaped by the environment and the culture that we live in. Do you know that when you go to Scotland, we have males who wear skirts, but when you come to Ghana and you go to certain churches, they say that females shouldn't even wear skirts. And in Ghana here, if you are also a male and then you go and wear skirts, people laugh at you. Hey, Bray, hey, bear man wears skirt, I don't need the car. Hey, and now they not doing. You see a lot of things about them. But should you be the same person, should you find yourself in Scotland, it will be normal to you. Why? Because your understanding or the cognitive understanding that you derived is just based on the culture, the environment that you find yourself within. If you come to Ghana, and then those of you uh, 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 who maybe sometimes travel outside Ghana, when you go to US and then you live in a room, or let's say like they've given you a room, and then the room that you are living in, you have people who are LGBTQ plus whatever, and then these people, they are open. They will tell you, oh, maybe this is my partner, gay partner, and they say it openly. What betides you and say because you're a Christian, you're a Ghanaian, so you discriminate among these people, you didn't like them. We can arrest you, and they can even send you back to your country that you are coming to discriminate. But over here in Ghana, I learned some people can just catch you that you are gay, they will beat you. And sometimes they even end up hurting you, harming you, or even causing a lot of damage to you. So that is what this ecological paradigm simplifies the whole thing, that we can't learn outside our culture and our environment, and every cognitive process are influenced by the immediate environment and then the culture that we find ourselves in. Very simple. Any questions for me? Hope you are making progress. Okay, whoever ask my number on WhatsApp, I've sent it again in the page. I've sent it in the chat. So my number is there. If you want to talk to me, you can. Alright, so let's proceed. Now, giving you this example, I think you are clear with these paradigms and everything. But then know that, let me make it real. Like I want to break it down. Let me give you another example. Okay, you are at University of Ghana, good. And let's say you want to go outside Oponglo to buy food. Because you've been a student in University of Ghana, when you are going outside to buy food, you will know where to pass. You will know that if I pass around either the night market area, use the stadium road, or if I use the main entrance, I'll go and get here. So you're able to find your way out by looking at the environment that you find yourself within. This is a typical example, and this can also fall under the ecological approach. Right. Okay. All right. Let's go on. Now, I want to summarize this ecological approach to you, which is very simple. So the most important thing that you need to know is that studying cognition within this ecological system has to do with real life setting. It shows that our cognitive ability, it is always shaped by the environment and then the culture around us. So you can't separate the environment and the culture to understand human cognition. So there is always that form of like interaction between the perceiver, that means the one who perceives, and then their surroundings or their environment. It is as simple as ABC. All right. Any questions? Because I think I've taken my time to take you guys through this again, and because we did the first one, you guys were able to follow this. Do you hear me? I have a feedback that I don't have internet connection, but do you hear me? Is the meeting smooth? Is it lagging or something?
I can hear you.
Good. Okay. Okay. So all right, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. So having spoken about this, I gave you a question the first meeting or the second meeting too. I gave you questions, but the same few of you have done it. Those who did it, I'll give you feedback, and then we continue. Now, those who are requesting for the private tutorials, we've started this week. We are meeting, and then I'll guide you as to how to solve questions in cognitive psychology. So we will just focus on picking questions, how to go through the questions, and also prepare ourselves for the practicals that is coming as well. So those who requested and those who are interested can still send me hi or something in WhatsApp, and then can just do it now so you don't forget, so you know the way forward. And this is level 400, and I always tell you that these tutorials, some of these tutorials are free, and you will never get this anywhere. During our time, we didn't get it this way. I had to learn and teach my friends and teach my colleagues. So I also created tutorials group like this, and that one we had the opportunity to meet in person because somebody offered a venue. So we were meeting, and then we were many, and most of them, I wouldn't brag, got B plus, and most of us also got A in both cognitive 1 and 2, B plus and A, and they passed because that was the only way to help us to pass this course. So don't take these things for granted. This is level 400, and you need to pass once and then just take your hand off these things. So be serious with your academics. Now let's proceed. Now, having done with these paradigms of cognitive psychology, I'm giving you guys the opportunity to ask me questions. We have less than 15 minutes left for this session to end. So if it ends, should we have another session to proceed, or should we end this? I'm taking your feedback. I'm taking your feedback, guys. We have less than. So what we do is that when we end, can you guys still join with the same link after the meeting ends? Is it allowed? Or do you have to create another link? Okay, after it ends, I'll create another link and send it to you. So you can just send me hi on WhatsApp and get the link and share it to your friends. So after it ends, I'll create another link and share with you in my inbox. Okay, questions. I'm taking your questions. I haven't gotten any questions over, guys. You guys are sharks. Okay, let's proceed. There were some questions that I wanted to ask you, but because you didn't do the first assignment, I'm not motivated to treat any questions with you. So I don't know, but maybe I'll just give you one question to just try hands on. If you do it, fine. If you don't do it too, that's over to you. So I wrote some questions down. Let me search for the questions upcoming. But whilst I'm searching for my question, if you have any question, you can ask me, and then we discuss it. Where is the question? Okay, who remembers the first question I gave you? The first question I gave you, what was the question? Who remembers the first question I gave you?
You said we should compare and
Mhm.
contrast the four major paradigms of cognitive psychology.
Good. So I want us to take this question and see how best we can answer this question. So send the question in the chat. Kindly do that and let me help you as to how best you can answer these questions. So we can start the next session. But the next session I wouldn't keep long because I need to get somewhere. Okay, so as we are waiting for her, today would be the last day I'll have online sessions with you, like maybe for this weekend. Probably I don't know. So maybe at times goes on, maybe once in a while, I would also devote my time because I'm also very busy, but I try to. So we've done 3 days from now, and I think I've done other sessions too with some of your colleagues already. So, but you can still text me if you need any assistance. Just feel free and talk to me, and don't be afraid to make friends. I mean, it's good. Just any assistance, just open up, get to know me. I'll assist you free. And then even if you give me money, I've not done anything because what I'm doing is not easy. So I just want you to pass and pass well. Please, are you done with the question? Somebody should just send the question to us in the chat so that I will take you through as to how to answer this question in a very systematic way. So I'm waiting for you guys. Okay, so somebody has sent the question to us. Thank you. Thank you. So now the point is that I asked you to compare and contrast four major paradigms in cognitive psychology. So those of you who did the work, how did you do it? Where did you start from? Give me some of the things that you spoke about, and let's see if you can arrange them well so that you can write something out of it. Now, before I proceed, let me say this. Usually when I am teaching or when I'm learning, I have various ways of learning. So for me, I don't need to memorize things like I need to memorize everything. No. Whenever I'm learning, I find different ways to make what I'm learning very simple for me. So that is what I want you to use. There are always approaches to how to answer questions. When you get them, it's like a structure, a format. So at times you can end up writing like 5 pages. People will be like, "Hey, you are sharp, you write a lot." No, because you are learning smart. If you try to memorize everything, how can you memorize a whole page within the time and go and write it? Okay, so we just need to have a structure. So maybe from this I move on to this, from this I go here, and before I realize you've written a lot that makes sense within a very few moments. You understand? So that's what I want us to do. So I've asked you a question. How did you do it? Those of you solve the question. How did you go about it? I'm very interested in it. When the meeting ends, I'll create another link and send it to you. So you can send me hi on WhatsApp, and then I would share that particular link with you.